I'm thrilled to announce that my DTV was approved a few days ago. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering everything about my application, how long the process took, which category I applied for, the general requirements, and all that kind of good stuff. Hi, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Meg and I've recently started a new series on my channel to share my journey with you of selling everything I own and relocating to Southeast Asia. And today I'm going to be talking about all things DTV, the Destination Thailand Visa. Just before we get started, a small disclaimer, this is not legal advice. As with everything I share on my channel, it's just purely based on my own personal experiences. It's really important that you do your own research. Visa rules and regulations can change very quickly in Thailand, so please keep updated and do the research that's relevant to you because everybody's circumstances are different. All of the content on my channel, particularly within this new series, is authentic and transparent, and that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. You won't ever hear me telling you to pack up your life and move to another country, and you'll certainly never see me trying to sell you some sort of fantasy dream. I know that some people do that online, but it's really important that you do your own research because everyone's personal situation is different. So let's get into the video. So firstly, I'm going to start with some key features of the DTV, and then I'll move on to how long the process took me from start to finish. So the Destination Thailand Visa, or the DTV for short, what is it? So it's a 5-year multiple entry visa for digital nomads, freelancers, remote workers, or for people who are interested in what's called soft power cultural activities such as Muay Thai or cooking. It allows a 180-day stay per entry, which can be extended one time for a further 180 days, and all applicants must be outside of Thailand when they apply. So for reference, I have a British passport. I applied here in the UK in my home country, but you don't have to be in your home country to apply. You can apply from another country, but what's most important is that you remain outside of Thailand during the entire process until the application is finalised. So the entire application is all done online. There's a digital portal on their official government website, which I will link down below in the description box. It's a fairly straightforward application. It shouldn't really take you much more than 15 to 20 minutes. As long as you have all of your documents prepared, which I will go over those in a moment, as long as you've got all of those ready in advance and you've potentially converted Word documents into PDFs if you needed to, you've got all of your ducks in a row, the process really shouldn't take much longer than 20 minutes. The actual application form itself is fairly straightforward and easy to fill out. So I'm going to move on now to the required documents and eligibility. So the required documents for the application, I forgot to mention at the start, I do have my notes and my laptop here in front of me. So if you occasionally see me looking down, that's why. I just want to make sure I don't forget any important information. So applicants must be at least 20 years old, and you'll need to provide a copy of the biodata page of your passport. You'll also need to provide a recent photograph of yourself taken within the last 6 months. And one of the most important criteria of the DTV is proof of funds. So you'll need to provide evidence of at least 500,000 Thai baht, which is roughly £12,000, depending on which country, of course, you're applying from. This will involve supplying bank statements, saving deposits, etc. Now, in terms of how long that £500,000 needs to be there is a bit of a grey area, and that will depend on the embassy. So each embassy, whilst the basic requirements will usually be the same, it will depend on the embassy or the country that you apply from. I think it's called seasoning, so how long that amount needs to be in there will vary. I think for the London embassy, if I remember correctly, I had to provide 3 months bank statements, but I don't think there was a particular seasoning requirement. I think the money was in there for 3 months, so maybe that's why they didn't specify. But yeah, definitely check depending on which embassy you apply to. Proof of remote work, if you're applying under the workation, digital nomad category, you'll need an employment contract, for example, or a company registration or a portfolio, depending on what work it is that you do online. If you're applying under the soft power category, you'll need evidence of a soft power activity, which could be a letter from a Muay Thai gym or a cooking school. You'll also need to provide proof of current location. So as I said at the start, it's very important that you apply outside of Thailand and that you remain outside of Thailand for the duration of the application process. So you'll need to provide, for example, proof of residence in whichever country you have applied for example, a utility bill, or maybe even proof of a stay in a hotel. In my case, I provided my driving license as I applied here in the UK, and my driving license has my current address on it. So that is the general eligibility and required documents. As I said, these can vary from embassy to embassy depending on which country you apply for, so make sure to thoroughly research those before you start your application. In terms of the application fee, for me here in the UK it was £300, but again this also varies depending on which country and which embassy you apply to. So even though the entire process is done online, when you first go onto the initial page of this digital portal, it will give you an option to select your current location, and then you'll get a drop-down menu where you will be able to select an embassy depending on which one is nearest to you. For me personally here in the UK there was only one, it was just London, but I do believe that other countries, they have multiple embassies that you can choose from, so you would choose the one that's closest to you geographically, just in case. And so yeah, even though the whole process is done online, it will give you the option to choose the embassy, and then you will just carry on with the application online until the end. So I mentioned earlier that the DTV is for remote workers, digital nomads, freelancers, and also for people who are interested in soft power activities. But there is actually a third category. I don't know really anything about this category because it's not relevant to me, so I haven't done any research into it. But I think it's called the dependent category. So basically, if you are the spouse or child under 20 years old of a DTV holder, then you would apply under that category. And for those of you who have already watched the videos in this series, I'm sure you have a good idea, but the category that I applied under was the workation category. I am an online remote TEFL teacher, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. I'm not going to go into any more detail about my actual online remote work in this video because I am desperate to keep this video on point and focused on the DTV. I want to try and keep my videos more concise and a little bit shorter. So if you are interested in my remote work or there's anything else that you want to know, let me know down in the comments, and I can always make another video which is more centered around my remote work and my online TEFL teaching. Another subject I just briefly wanted to touch upon with regards to the DTV is using an agent. Now you can use an agent if you feel that that is something that might be helpful to you. Maybe you feel it would save you time, or you'd feel more confident using an agent to fill out the application form. But it's not actually necessary. It's very possible to apply for the DTV on your own. For example, myself, I'm somebody who can get a bit overwhelmed when it comes to lots of paperwork. I'm a worrier, I'm an overthinker, and I managed to complete the application and go through the entire process on my own without using an agent. So unfortunately, I don't have any advice I can offer with regards to using an agent because, well, I didn't use one. And the general consensus online from what I've read seems to be that you really don't need an agent. But if it's something that you feel you would like to use, of course, that service for a fee, of course, is available. But I would highly recommend that you do your research and you do your due diligence when choosing an agent, because scams are common when it comes to agencies helping people with their visas. So yeah, of course, you'll have to pay a fee for that service. Effectively, they just submit the documents on your behalf, so it doesn't guarantee approval either. But if that's something that you feel might be helpful, I definitely recommend you go and research that. As I said, unfortunately, I can't offer any further advice. You don't really need an agent, but yeah, agents are out there. So how long did the entire application process take me from start to finish? So I applied on the 19th of December. I received a request for additional documents on the 7th of January, so I think that's around about 3 weeks later. I submitted these documents the next day, so on the 8th of January. On the 21st of January, I then got an update asking me to attend an interview in person at the London Embassy on the 27th of January. Now, this was a bit of a surprise. I definitely wasn't expecting to be attending the embassy in person. As I said at the start, the entire application process is done online. They have a website dedicated specifically to visas, and it functions very well, and the entire process is supposed to be online. But occasionally people can be asked to attend the embassy in person. Now here in the UK that is quite rare, which is why I was quite surprised. In other countries I know that it can be fairly common to be asked to attend an interview in person, but here in the UK at the London Embassy it's quite unusual. So I was a little bit taken aback by the request, but to be fair, it turns out that it was completely worth it. I did have to travel up to London the night before and stay in a hotel, which were additional costs that I wasn't really expecting, but like I say, it was definitely worth it in the end. So the interview was on the 27th of January, so that was already a week ago now, gosh. And I was just given a time frame of between 9 and 11 a.m. There wasn't a specific interview time, just to turn up between those 2 hours at the London Embassy. So I travelled, it takes me a good 4 hours to get from where I live here in the southwest of England up to London. I went up on the train, stayed overnight in a hotel, and then attended the embassy in the morning. So yeah, wasn't really expecting that. I was quite nervous, I will admit, not because I had anything to hide, just, I don't know, I think it's human nature to be a little bit nervous about interviews, especially when it comes to an embassy. I've never attended an embassy before, I've never applied for such an important visa before, so I think it was quite natural to feel nervous. But yeah, I had nothing to hide, and everything that I had submitted in terms of additional documents and also the original application was all fully transparent. It's really important that you don't embellish your application in any way and that you disclose everything honestly. So obviously that's what I did, and so really it was just for clarification purposes, I think, and really just to go over what I'd already supplied them with. And it was quite informal, it was a lot more informal than I expected, and I think I was in and out within like 15-20 minutes. So yeah, it was quite a short time to spend at the embassy for a whole 24-hour journey and overnight stay in a hotel, but as it turns out, it was absolutely worth it. I travelled back down to my home where I live, which took me roughly 4 or 5 hours by the time I got back. Unpacked, sat down on my sofa, had a cup of tea, and within half an hour I got the approval confirmation email, and yeah, I'll be honest, I cried for quite a long time. I think more due to the release of stress and pressure and relief that it's approved and I now have the DTV. I feel really privileged to have the DTV, but yeah, within literally half an hour of getting home, I got the approval email. The lady that interviewed me at the embassy said that I could be potentially waiting for up to another 15 days. So the fact that I was approved within 5-6 hours of attending the embassy was really amazing. So yeah, the entire process took, I think, 5.5 weeks from start to finish. And just to point out, I did apply very early. So you are allowed to apply up to 90 days in advance. You can't apply any earlier than that. And I think I applied 89 days in advance. So yeah, I did apply very, very early, well, as early as you can do. And I did that intentionally, just in case there were any additional document requests, which as it turns out there was, just in case there were any unforeseen circumstances, such as attending the embassy, which I wasn't expecting, and any just, I don't know, potential disasters, mostly also just to tick it off of my 1,000,001 things to do on my to-do list. So yeah, I just wanted the reassurance that that was done, and then I could tackle all of the other million things that I had to do. So I did apply very early. That's potentially why the process took a little bit longer than the average wait time. I think if I was flying, so I'm flying on the 17th of March, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So I think it was exactly 89 days early. I think if I was flying sooner and I'd applied a bit closer to my flight date, then maybe they would have processed the application quicker, but I completely understand I wouldn't have been a priority on their list of hundreds, if not thousands, of applications that they have to work through because my flight was so far away. But yeah, in total, the process took 5.5 weeks. I did have to supply additional documents sort of halfway through the process, which is fairly standard. That happens quite a lot. And then 2 weeks later, I think it was, I was then asked to attend the embassy in London in person, which as it turns out was definitely worth it. So yeah, all in all about 5.5 weeks. And yeah, I feel really, really privileged to have the DTV. Yeah, I can't wait, super excited, still quite scared and nervous about certain things, but yeah. Yeah. In terms of my interview questions at the embassy and also the additional documents that they requested, if you want more information about those, please let me know in the comments section. I want to try and keep this video as concise and short as possible, and I could potentially make a video that's 2-3 hours long. There's so much to cram into one video. There's so much information to share about the DTV. It wouldn't be possible to fit it all into one video. I think half of you would fall asleep, and you know, sharing candidly, I want you to watch until the end. I don't want you to click off halfway through the video. So I want to try and keep the video as short as possible, share as much information as possible, but without going into too much detail. I think it would be much better if you share with me in the comments section your individual needs or curiosities or questions, and then I can always potentially make a part 2 or even a part 3 of this video, or another video altogether focusing on one particular topic. So yeah, the interview questions and the additional documents that they requested, feel free to let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd be interested in, but also please be aware that they will be unique and different to everybody. So as I said at the start, everybody's personal circumstances are different, and so the documents that they requested and the interview questions that I had will be different for everybody. Another really important thing that I wanted to mention in this video is a YouTuber called Chris Parker. Now, he has a channel called Retired Working For You, and I'm going to link a video in the description down below, which I highly recommend that you go and check out. He actually interviews a government official who oversees the entire visa program. So if you want information from the horse's mouth, as they say, directly from the source, then that's the video to watch. Because as I just said earlier, I'm sure there's things that I will forget to mention in this video. There's only so much information that I can pack into one video, and that video by Chris Parker is amazing. He has been really instrumental and really helpful in my research and helping me to make the decision, along with a few other YouTubers. But yeah, he's also really funny as well. As his channel name may suggest, his content is a little bit more geared towards people who are looking to retire in Thailand, but he's full of knowledge. His videos are super helpful. So I will link that video where he interviews the government official down in the description. Highly recommend you go and check that one out. That may potentially clear up any doubts or concerns that you have. I wanted to also touch upon the subject of extending. So I mentioned at the very beginning when I ran through the key features of the DTV that it allows for a 180-day stay per entry, which is extendable one time for a further 180 days. Now, there is a little bit of confusion and mixed information online with regards to extending. So I will just share what I've researched. I haven't done, I will admit, a huge amount of research with regards to extending because I don't intend to extend my 180 days. One of the main reasons for choosing the DTV personally was the fact that you do have to leave the country every 180 days, and I'll no longer be living in the UK where I have to spend 14 hours on a plane, and once I've done all the public transport and the travelling on either side, plus the jet lag, plus the time difference, effectively I'm looking at almost 24 hours of travelling just to get to Southeast Asia. Once I live in Thailand, I won't have that issue anymore, and the fact that I will be able to just jump on a plane within an hour or two and I'll be in a neighbouring Southeast Asian country, I can stay there for a couple of days and then just come back to Thailand, for me is really amazing. It's almost like a forced holiday, the 180-day rule where you have to exit and re-enter. It's the perfect opportunity to go and visit a neighbouring country for a couple of days, and so I haven't done a huge amount of research in terms of extending. Also because the general consensus and overwhelming advice online 99.9% of the time is to not extend. Now, I'll explain a little bit why. So as I said, I'm not looking to extend unless there is like an emergency reason or a really important need to stay in Thailand, or a reason why I can't leave Thailand for a couple of days. I will be, spending a couple of days in a neighbouring country. I mentioned this in my last video. I definitely recommend you go and check that one out. I'll link it up here somewhere where I talk about what plans I have for my 180-day leaves, border runs, whatever you want to call them. The overall online advice and the overwhelming general consensus online is to not extend. Now, the reason for this is you will have to attend your nearest immigration bureau in Thailand They will basically ask you for all of the documents all over again. So the original documents that you supplied when you first applied for the DTV, you'll also need to have proof of that 500,000 Thai baht. So that will still need to be sat there in your bank account. I have no idea how long they will want that to be seasoned, I think is the right word. Basically, you'll effectively be reapplying all over again in a way, and they'll make it quite hard for you. They could potentially even ask you for additional documents that you may not have even been asked for the first time, to go away and come back to the immigration office, and they'll make it quite difficult. And I've even read cases of people who've gone to their local immigration bureau to extend their 180 days, and the officer themselves has just said, go and do a border run or a visa hop, you know, just leave the country and come back in. So they'll make it quite difficult for you. I'm not entirely sure what the reason for this is, but yeah, basically the general consensus is it's easier to just do a border hop or a visa run. Now, depending on which border you cross at, which country you go into, this can vary how long you need to be out of the country. So some borders or countries are happy for you to just leave for an hour, go and have a cup of coffee in another country and a bite to eat, and then come back in on the same day, in the same afternoon. Some borders will want you to go out for 24 hours. Some might say you need to be away for a couple of days. As I haven't got to that point yet, I don't know how that would work. But yeah, it's all in all, it's generally advised to be easier to just do a border run or a visa hop. You have the opportunity to go and see a neighbouring country for a couple of days. I personally will just be staying in a small local guest house, as always, eating local food, and then yeah, just pop back into Bangkok after a couple of days. The grey area online, or where there seems to be a bit of confusion or disagreement, is how many times you can apply for the extension. So from the research that I've done, which may not be accurate because, as I said, I'm not really looking into it, you'll get a fresh 180-day stamp every time you re-enter on the 5-year DTV, and then you can attend the bureau and hopefully get it extended. They don't always approve it, get it extended for another 180 days. That would give you technically almost an entire year where you don't have to leave the country. But once that 360 days is up, then you do have to leave and re-enter. At that point, you would get a fresh 180-day stamp. I believe you can then go back to the Immigration Bureau and extend that as well. I don't think you're only allowed one extension during the entire 5-year process. I'm sure there's someone potentially in the comments who'll tell me that I'm wrong, but my understanding from the research that I've done is when they say it's only extendable one time, what they mean is that 180 days can be extended for a further 180 days to give you 360 days, but then you have to leave and re-enter and get another fresh 180-day stamp, which you can then keep extending. Effectively meaning that over the 5 years, you would only have to leave Thailand 5 times rather than, for example, in my case, 10 times, depending on, you know, whether all your timings are accurate and lined up or not. So yeah, definitely do your own research, as I've said throughout this video. If you are looking to extend for whatever reason you don't want to or can't leave the country, that may happen to me. During my DTV time, I might have a particular reason why I can't leave or don't want to leave, but personally I'm intending on spending a couple of days abroad. So yes, you can extend. I think it costs, it's 1900 baht, I think, as of today. Obviously that might change as well, which is around £43, I think. So yeah, it's a reasonable cost to be able to get a further 180 days. But yeah, general consensus is much easier to just do a border run or a visa hop. And finally, to wrap this video up, really important thing that I wanted to mention is the validity of the visa. So the DTV is a 5-year multiple entry visa, but the validity of the 5 years starts from the point that you receive that approval letter or email, not from the first day that you enter Thailand. And that's easily proven. I'll pop my visa up on the screen. You can see that it's valid from the 27th of January 2026 to the 26th of January 3031. So technically, I'm not sure whether there's any rules regarding how long you have to enter once you're approved. I don't know, because my flight's already booked, so it's not really relevant to me. There might be a time limit, but technically you can enter whenever you like. So for me personally, because I applied so early, I've effectively lost 6 weeks of my visa, but for me personally, I'm not concerned about that. It was more important for me to have the visa and know that I was approved, rather than worrying sort of 5 years down the line about an additional 6 weeks or 6 weeks less. 5 years is a very long time away. Who knows where I'll be at that point. So yeah, that's far too far in advance to be worrying about. It was more important for me to get the visa sorted and peace of mind, I guess, that was all approved and done. So yeah, technically I've lost 6 weeks of the 5-year validity. But yeah, really important, the validity is from the day you are approved. So for me, the day I received the email was the 27th of January. It says that on my visa, and it's valid until the 26th of January 2031. So that's 5 years, not from the day you enter Thailand. When you first enter Thailand on the DTV, you will get a fresh 180-day stamp, which permits you to stay in Thailand for 180 days. But the validity is from the day that you were approved, not the day that you first entered Thailand. Okay, so that's it. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that it wasn't too long and that you found it useful, and that there's some bits of information here and there that can help you with the process if you're interested in a DTV, or you're currently applying for one, or you're curious about it. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did find it helpful. As I said earlier, I'm only human. I'm sure there's things that I will forget and I've potentially not mentioned in this video. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to know. I do my best to get back to you all as quickly as possible. As you can imagine, I do have a lot going on at the moment, so I'll do my best to reply to everybody and potentially make a part 2 or even a part 3 of this video, or a separate video altogether on a specific topic. I also do suffer from camera anxiety, filming nerves, and that is something that I'm working on within myself. I know that my filming style needs improvement, but yeah, that's something that I'm working on. So I do my best to remember everything and include everything that I've prepared before I start filming. But yeah, I hope that you found the video helpful. Make sure, of course, to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support and each and every one of you, part of this small community, really means a lot to me, particularly as a small content creator. Also, hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more videos. There's going to be lots of different topics within this series, so make sure you don't miss out on those. And in the meantime, as always, take care and stay safe, and I'll see you next time.